Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course from New Earth One Network. This is designed exclusively for your higher self connection and embodiment. Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course brought to you by New Earth One Network. Today, we are talking with a beautiful soul who actually has a course for us on living in more than one dimension. We are multidimensional, and as we expand in this awareness, we can live in a whole new way. Shirley Rose is here with us, and I'm so pleased to bring her here so that she can share this beautiful wisdom from her decades of work. Shirley Rose, hello, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Laura. And I'm so happy to be here. And I love the work that you're doing with your network. It's really a blessing for everybody.
Well, we are excited to have you here, and we're excited to learn from you. You have just done beautiful work, and you've got a whole library of recordings and teachings where people can work with you, and that's available for our audience. But today, this is really for us to experience a little bit of that work. So let's start with the topic at hand and your knowledge and your wisdom of living in more than one dimension.
We've always been living in more than one dimension. Before we were incarnate, we were multidimensional. While we're incarnate, we interact with other levels of consciousness. And after we leave incarnation, we also interact with other levels of consciousness and other dimensions. So we have always been able to do this. Now, science is even catching up to this, and they're saying things like we have parallel realities and we have other dimensions, and there are levels of consciousness out there that we don't know that much about. And I love that because it's just validating what the great masters have been teaching for thousands and thousands of years. And the good news is that we actually exist on all of those levels of reality. And so, what I'd like to play with today is getting you familiar with those different levels and to show you how easy it is for you to interact personally with yourself on many of those levels. Now, in Tibet, for example, when the Dalai Lama passes away, they go looking for the new incarnation of the Dalai Lama. And one of the things they find occasionally is that the Dalai Lama chooses to incarnate in more than one body. And it has happened a couple of times in this way. So even on planet Earth, we can exist in this dimension in multiple bodies, the same consciousness. Now, also on the planets Venus and Mercury, the ancient teachings has taught us that beings from those planets have come to planet Earth a variety of times to help us and uplift us, to help us with whatever we're going through at the time. And they are really other dimensional beings. So when NASA flies by Venus and Mercury and they say, oh, there's no life on Venus or Mercury. Well, actually, there is life. There's teeming life. They have beings in their inner planets, just as we do on our inner planet, and also around their planet in a variety of different dimensions. So, you might remember the movie The Celestine Prophecies. It was also a book. It was very, very popular. And it talked about raising our vibration. And there was one great scene in that movie where they were being chased by the police and they ended up in this little sacred site. And they had been practicing for a long time raising their vibration. And as a group, they consciously chose to do that. And what happened? They disappeared. Now, they didn't move from where they were and they didn't travel to another time, but the police were not able to see them. So, in this way, we are not able, with our limited vision, to see some of these beings on these other planets because they're just simply vibrating at another vibration than we are. Now, when we were in the third dimension, we were able to contact all the different levels of consciousness, but some levels of consciousness were not able to descend into the third dimension. For instance, our higher self cannot descend from the fifth dimension where it resides down into the third dimension. So when we communicated with our higher self when we were third dimensional, it was kind of like through mental telepathy. It was this whispering of the wisdom of our higher self. But now we actually are in the fifth dimension. So we are on the level of the higher self, and we are now merging with that higher self, which means all of that wisdom, all of that overview ability to see from a higher level is becoming a part of our conscious waking understanding. And we're beginning to see all of the patterns of why we went through all of these crazy experiences in our life. And it's beginning to make sense to us because we're beginning to understand the symbols of our experiences and we're beginning to understand the lessons of our experience and how important they were to bring us to this point so that we can now raise our consciousness at will. So it's a beautiful, beautiful marriage that's happening. Now, while we were in the third dimension, we were interacting with these other levels of consciousness. But for most people, we did this while we were in the dream state. And we weren't really conscious of it when we woke up. So every night when we went to sleep, we did have interactions with parallel realities, other dimensions, angelic beings, our guides, all kinds of forms of life. And very frequently, we did not remember it. But now, because we are in the fifth dimension, we really have this wonderful opportunity to do it consciously and to begin to contact specific levels of consciousness at choice. We have this wonderful ability to have this communication now. So, one of the things we think about other dimensions is we think that they're very far away. We see all these movies, and you go out in outer space and they put you in suspended animation for years until you arrive at some distant planet or constellation. Well, the truth is, we have lots of dimensions right here on Earth, and we can interact with them anytime. There is no travel. And not only that, but when you are traveling from one dimension to another, you're traveling at the speed of thought. There is no distance, there is no separation in time, it's instantaneous. So, one ways we can interact with other dimensions on Earth is with the beautiful inner Earth beings who vibrate at a higher level or dimension than we do. We can also interact with the elementals, which are vibrating at another dimension than we are. And we can interact with so many levels of consciousness. We can interact with, for instance, a mountain. A mountain has its own consciousness, and we can communicate with that mountain telepathically. It's a beautiful energy. We can interact with oceans. Many of us who have pets and interact with animals know for sure we can interact with our animals and wild animals as well. In the oceans, we can interact with the whales and the dolphins. Of course, we can interact with the trees, and we can even interact with crystals. So there's so many different sentient levels of consciousness that we have the opportunity to interact with right here, right now. And the ancient teachings taught us that the way to do that is through a series of exercises. And we have all been doing these for years and years. We have been raising our frequency and activating our astral bodies. So, through our breathing exercises, our meditation, changing our diets, toning, chanting, all of these methods have raised up our Kundalini energy at the base of the spine, activated the chakras up into the pineal gland, which is really this beautiful portal into the other dimensions. So, one of the things my transformational program package today is offering you are 7 programs to open up and activate your bodies in all ways so that your body is really fully ready to travel through these dimensions. There's even a pineal gland activation, which is such an important step in this process. So, another thing that the ancients used to do is it used to build chambers. And these chambers were built to a specific frequency. For example, when I was in Chaco Canyon in New Mexico, I observed these circular shaped kivas in the ground. They're built into the ground at different sizes. And what came to me while I was sitting there was that these kivas are tuned to specific frequencies. And when the Native Americans went down their ladders into the chamber, their body would begin to resonate at that specific frequency. And they would call in an entity that vibrated at that specific frequency, and it would appear holographically in the chamber with them. And they would be able to actually communicate with that entity. So it could give them the teachings of the universe. It could help them to solve problems in their tribes, to heal their bodies or their minds, and really give them tremendous amount of information. Now, because it had so many different chambers at different sizes, you can see that they had figured out how to interact with different entities, specifically at different frequencies. Another chamber that was built for the same purpose is the Great Pyramid in Giza. And when I was in the Great Pyramid in Giza, my experience was there was a subterranean chamber there, and it is now closed off to the public. And the reason is because in that chamber, the initiate would actually manifest their fears. It was tuned to the vibration of the physical realm. And in the physical realm, what we're dealing with is how to overcome our fears. Do you remember that movie, Defending Your Life, where uh, someone died and they went to the area between lifetimes and they were judged? And they kept saying, "But did you feel fear?" So they kept explaining that you had to overcome your fear before you could move on into the higher realms. And that's what happened in these chambers. The initiate would manifest their fears, which would be a very scary experience, and they would appear all around them, whatever fearful ideas they had in their mind, and they would be forced to stay there until they realized that they were creating that fear in their own mind, and they had the ability to stop creating it, and then that fearful experience would disappear. Once they had mastered that level and that vibration or frequency, they were able to go up into the next chamber. And my experience was that next chamber was vibrating at the astral plane body. So we have that physical body, and the next body up is our astral body. So that next chamber was also a level of illusion, and our astral body is a level of illusion because that's where we feel a lot of emotions. Some systems call this the emotional body. And this is where we feel a lot of doubt, worry, confusion. I like to think of it as like when, you go to those carnivals and they have all those mirrors set up. You go into the room of mirrors, and one mirror makes you look very long and thin, and the other one makes you very wide. And you look around and you get a little disoriented because you don't really know which one is your image. They're all kind of reflecting off of each other. And isn't that what we're doing in life? We're creating this reflection outside of ourselves to look at ourselves in different ways. And we sometimes get disoriented. We get a little confused. We think, oh, that's not really me, or is that me? We get into these states of doubt and confusion. So the initiate would have to stay in that chamber until it basically mastered the negative emotions that it was projecting, and was able to then transform that into projecting what it chose to project consciously. And it was a practice. The next chamber up is the Queen's chamber. And I think of that as the divine mind plane. We have that mental plane, and that's kind of the navigator in our lives. We get ways to accomplish our goals on this plane. We see the way to do things. And it also, in the Great Pyramid, shows the initiate through shafts that lead off the Queen's chamber that lead to the constellation Orion. So the Great Pyramid in Giza was actually aligned with and attuned to the constellation Orion. And those shafts were basically how you navigate from the Queen's chamber in your consciousness to travel through the top of the pyramid right into the constellation Orion. And the ancient Egyptians had a lot of stories about Orion. And then my experience in the King's Chamber, I lay down in the sarcophagus for quite a while. And one of the things that came to me was a ladder. And on that ladder were all my lifetimes climbing up and down the ladder. They were current lifetimes, parallel lifetimes, future lifetimes, lifetimes on this planet and lifetimes on other planets. And I could see all of those bodies in their costumes and so forth going up and down that ladder. And I realized that I could contact any of those aspects of myself in that spiritual realm. So now we have the ability to attune to all of these levels. And that's what my final ascension workshop really is all about, helping you to attune to all of these levels so you can experience them just like the initiates did in the Great Pyramid, and have the actual experience through lecture and through meditation of going to very specific levels of consciousness and interacting with different levels. It also helps everything you need to fall away from you, to open you up to experience in greater understanding. Because if we're not aware of something, it's a lot harder for us to interact with it. If we know that something exists, then it's much easier to contact them. Once you've met someone, it's a lot easier to call them up in your mind, to interact with them. Or if you've had a special relationship with a whale, perhaps in the ocean, after that first time, it's a lot easier to call them back up and interact with them because you've created a relationship with them, and you can call them anytime you like. So it's the same way with these programs. Now, the ancients gave actual directions of how to travel through consciousness. And one of the ways they did that was using sacred geometry. Now, this is a picture of a right triangle, an equilateral right triangle that has one 90-degree angle and two 45-degree angles. And Pythagoras said, if you know two sides of this triangle, you can determine the third side, right? So when we travel to another place, we need three coordinates. We need the y-axis, the x-axis, and the z-axis. And you can see that these exist on the right triangle. And even though we're looking at that flat, this is really a three-dimensional form. And I like this drawing because you can kind of see how each of those lines are at a 90-degree angle to each other and that they exist on a different plane. Do you see how the plane of that cube has the different sides and each one of those coordinates is on a different plane? So to chart a point, even today with our GPS, we need three coordinates on that same three access points. So do you remember in the movie Stargate, they were looking for the third coordinate and they eventually, of course, found it and were able to travel through time and space to another planet on the other side of the galaxy. So this is the kind of knowledge that was being transferred through sacred geometry, which is all three-dimensional in the ancient mystery schools. And another thing they taught us was the vehicle we need to use to travel through consciousness is called the Merkaba. And many of you, of course, are familiar with that. In Egyptian, the word mer, M-E-R, means light, ka, K-A-H, means spirit, and Ba was the body. So it was really activating the light body to be the vehicle to transport us through all of these dimensions, parallel realities, levels of consciousness to wherever we wanted to go. And the Merkaba is made up of two interlocking tetrahedrons. It's called a star tetrahedron. Many of you have seen this form before. And a tetrahedron is made up of four sides. So it's a three-sided pyramid with a bottom. That's the fourth side. The top pyramid spins when activated in a clockwise pattern. The bottom pyramid spins in a counterclockwise pattern when activated. And they spin faster and faster until they create an energy field inside the Merkaba. And then all of a sudden, a sphere kind of pops out around it. And it looks a little bit like this when it's activated. So you can see that it's in motion and it's spinning and it's active. So one way that we can move through space is either by traveling one 90-degree angle, as in the equilateral triangle, or two 45-degree angles, which are the other two sides of this equilateral triangle. And that's why it was such a sacred shape. And that's why Pythagoras made it the center of his teaching, that was really the way you could travel from one dimension to another. Now, when you're looking at video of spaceships, you'll often see them do this little zigzag pattern. It kind of goes zip, 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 and then they disappear. And in my perception, what they're doing is they're moving two 45-degree angles, and then they're disappearing into another dimension. Sometimes you'll see video of them and they'll just like move to one side and then they'll go straight up and that's the 90-degree angle. And all of a sudden, they'll just disappear into often a burst of light. And in that way, they're just traveling to another dimension. And that's why they disappear from our sight, because our sight is kind of very limited. Our range of vision in this life and in this body is really a very small spectrum of the entire spectrum of light and vision. Now that we are fifth dimensional, our vision is going to begin expanding, and we're going to begin to see more beings in these other dimensions. I don't know about you, but I've been seeing all kinds of things out of the corner of my eye, and a little flash of light here and a little flash of light there. And I think more people are integrating deeper into this fifth dimensional reality and beginning to bring up these wonderful gifts that are coming back to us. So we're all moving up the ladder of evolution, and that's the whole point of creation. You know, we were third dimensional, and now we have moved up to fifth dimensional. Now, the beings that were fifth dimensional have now moved up to the sixth dimension, the sixth dimensional beings to the seventh, and so forth. Now, all of that happens at one time. It's a quantum leap that takes us from one dimension into another, and all of creation moves at one moment in time. And as we all know, for years, there has been so much help coming into the third dimension because we were lagging behind, and we were the ones that could have prevented all of creation from moving forward. So everything that was available came into the earth to shift us, to uplift our vibration, and we have been successful. We have moved up the ladder of evolution along with all of creation in this beautiful quantum leap, and here we are now. So it's very important for us to see that it's important to work together with these other levels of consciousness, and that going to these other dimensions, parallel realities, are not just for recreation, although we can do that too. We can have a wonderful time and take a little mental vacation on the Pleiades and walk around with our friends there. But we can actually work together on our projects, and we can work together on making this evolutionary process happen for everybody. And it's so important for us to understand that as we help someone below us, we're helping the whole of creation. So everything that we can do to our own bodies to uplift ourselves, to be more conscious of these processes, to learn how to do these things, helps everybody else come along as it enters the Akashic record and makes it easier for the next group to ascend. So, what I'd love to do now is take you on a little journey and have you have the experience of interacting with another aspect of yourself. I know so often when we go into these meditations, we want to, you know, contact Saint Germain or some great being that we have an affinity for and a great longing to be with. But we are just as powerful as those wonderful beings. And I want you to have that experience now. So come with me as we join together and go into another level of yourself now. So close your eyes, relax your body. You can sit upright with your back straight, or if you're more comfortable, you can lie down. If you're sitting upright, don't be too stiff, just sit in a comfortable posture. And we're going to take 3 deep breaths together. We're going to inhale through the nose, hold for a count of 5, exhale through the mouth, hold the air out of our lungs for a count of 5, and then begin again. We'll take 3 breaths together. So let's begin. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Second breath. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Last time. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now just breathe slowly and easily at a comfortable rate for you. Begin to feel your vibration rising higher and higher. Envision the Merkaba around your body. The top pyramid begins to spin clockwise, and the bottom pyramid begins to spin counterclockwise. A sphere appears around you, and you begin to move just like the Good Witch of the North in The Wizard of Oz, in that beautiful sphere where she descends into Munchkinland. We begin to see your sphere begin to spin. We set our intention. Now, I am traveling to the level of consciousness another aspect of myself is residing on. This can be in a parallel reality, another planet, another constellation, or in the angelic, archangelic realms, or even beyond. I now intend my sphere to move to the left. And now I intend my sphere to move straight up into the sky at a 90-degree angle. I see a bright light in front of me. A wormhole opens up and my sphere enters it. I am traveling at the speed of thought directly to the destination that I am having in my mind now. I arrive at my destination and my Merkaba slows down and stops spinning. I step out of the sphere and into an amazing world. I walk a short distance and I see a being walking towards me. As this being gets closer, I recognize this being as an aspect of myself. A broad smile crosses both our faces as we recognize each other. We greet each other according to the custom of this other aspect of myself. This being is communicating with me telepathically, and I understand every word clearly. My other self looks into my mind and notices what I am most needing in this moment. My other self begins to share information telepathically with me about a situation in my life that needs healing or assistance with a clearing that needs to take place, or perhaps gives an activation to me now. Begin to hear and feel this experience now. After this is complete, you and your other self join foreheads, and you begin to see pictures in your mind of the life that your other self has lived from its beginning up until this moment. Begin to see those pictures in your mind now. When this is complete, take the hand of your other self and allow your other self to give you a tour of its world, to show you how it lives, the activities it does on a daily basis. Take the hand of your other self and go with it and experience this other world now. You find yourself back at the spot you landed, and an expression of deep gratitude and satisfaction envelops you both. You stand facing each other, and your other self sends a golden beam of light from its solar plexus into your solar plexus. You are receiving a clearing and a cleansing of all the things that no longer serve you. You see a gray steam streaming out of your solar plexus up to the light of all that is to be transformed. Experience that now. Now see your other self send out a pink beam of light from its heart to your heart. You are receiving unconditional love. Allow this unconditional love to come into your heart and fill your whole body now. Your other self now sends out a beam of blue light from between its eyes into the area between your eyes. You are receiving downloads and activations that your body is able to handle at this time and able to assimilate and benefit from. Receive those now. You now see an iridescent bubble forming around you, the kind you used to blow as a child from the soap suds. And you see your other self being surrounded by an iridescent bubble as well. You begin walking towards each other. The two bubbles begin to merge, overlap, and then you are standing in the same place, both bubbles in one spot. Your two bodies are merging into one. You are integrating your consciousness together so you can communicate with and experience what the other is doing anytime you choose to reconnect. You can enjoy each other's company or call for help and advice anytime you need it. Now, the two bubbles separate. Your other self turns and faces you. The two bubbles disappear, and you both find yourself with your hands in namaste position in front of your heart, both bowing to each other and saying goodbye for now. We will meet again soon in the near future. Your other self turns and moves away, going on with its daily activities. You stand in stillness for a moment, taking in everything you just experienced, and relish this moment of integration now. You feel the Merkaba forming around you again. The top pyramid begins to spin clockwise. The bottom pyramid begins to spin counterclockwise, faster and faster and faster until the sphere around you appears. That force field is activated. You turn back toward the wormhole you came through and you step into the wormhole. Your sphere is transported back at the speed of thought into this present moment. The Merkaba slows down, stops, the sphere disappears, and you find yourself back in this room. You set your intention to remember everything you experienced on your journey. You cement these memories in your mind so you can access them whenever you choose. You set your intention to remember the advice your other self gave you. You know you can re-merge with this aspect of yourself anytime you like, and a smile comes over you. You are filled with a sensation of completeness. You feel full and whole. You realize that you can never be lonely anymore because not only is this other aspect of yourself there for you to interact with any time you want company, but there are an infinite number of other aspects of yourself that you can go to visit whenever you choose. Your consciousness begins to come back into this space. You feel the room around you. Your consciousness enters the top of your head and fills your whole body. You feel the chair or surface beneath you. As I count you back from 10 to 1, 100% of your consciousness comes back inside your body. 10, 9, 8. Feel the sensation of the air around you on your skin. 7, 6, 5. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. When I count you back from 4 to 1, you will open your eyes feeling relaxed and refreshed as if you've had a nice long nap. 3, 2, 1. Open your eyes. Be fully present, aware, and awake, 100% back in your body. And so it is.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I can see now the importance of making the connection because there's such a deep peace. I know it's different for everyone. Everyone's journey as they revisit it could be something different each time. But the wisdom and the love that was there and the information that was there, I just have to share, Shirley. For me, it felt like I traveled to New Earth, a parallel reality of New Earth. And I want to cry right now because I see how assisting everyone get to that point. Everyone was already at this point of innovation and harmony with the earth, but yet there was technology. And it just gives me personally a lot of hope from this little exercise meditation today, which was beyond profound. And I trust everyone's experience was as dynamic as the one that I experienced. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so grateful because this is such important work for us right now. This is really the next step in our evolution to become galactic beings, universal beings, solar system beings, interplanetary, interconstellation, parallel reality. The more that we can conceive of, the more we can interact with. So, as I mentioned in my transformational package, there are 7 items to prepare your body to be able to do this work more consciously. In the Final Ascension workshop, there are 12 different lessons where you integrate one after the other. They build on each other week after week. There's a lecture portion which addresses your left mind and a meditation portion which addresses your right mind that gives you the ability to peel those layers of the onion off to get to the core of your being, where you really meet yourself on such a deep, still level. You come to that still point. And there is so much power in doing that. You're going to be marrying your right and left brain. You're going to clarify your ability to conceive of enlightenment. So, enlightenment will be so much more attainable to you because you'll know it's within your grasp now. And you'll be stretching and expanding your consciousness each week so that you can see more and more possibilities and therefore interact with these possibilities so easily. Just as you saw, in a moment, we were transported to wherever we wanted in our mind. And I just want you to know, I took you to the steps one by one today, but it's just like driving. You know, when you first drive, you get in the car and you think, oh, I have to put the key in the ignition. I have to put the gear into place. I have to put my hands on, 10 and 2 o'clock. I have to put my foot on the pedal. But eventually you start driving automatically. You don't really think about any of those steps. You get in the car and boom, you're in it and you're gone. The same will happen for you. You'll integrate these steps very, very quickly, and you'll be able to transport yourself wherever in creation you choose.
That is so powerful. And again, it's the core of our being, getting to know that core of our being. And in that meditation that we experienced, that aspect of ourself, again, so wise and available. How empowering is that? It's almost as if we could see that choice to incarnate here in this lifetime on earth because we knew we could do it. We know that we can actually assist in this raising of vibration. Now, when you mentioned the beings in Venus and other planets, all planets, and the evolution, so that the beings that were on fifth have gone to the sixth, and this experience today reinforced our knowledge of coming into this incarnation to be able to raise that vibration so that we can move to through the fourth and here to the fifth. So again, it feels really good. And as folks work with this and stretch and expand their consciousness, we will have the solutions. We will make that bridge to New Earth rather quickly.
And the beauty of it is we don't have to do it alone. We never had to do it alone. We have all this assistance. And I think what's so empowering to know is every aspect of our own being is as high as the highest being in creation. Everything has access to all knowledge. Our higher self has access to all knowledge in the universe. I enjoy interacting with higher level beings who I love and have created relationships over the years. But I also like to recognize myself as being in that space and an equal of all of those beings. So it's so important for all of us to remember that.
Thank you. Yes, I see that as standing shoulder to shoulder with these great beings. Beautiful. So, 12 lessons in your package. Let's talk about your package in ways that people are ready to work more with your beautiful teachings. Those were the 12 lessons to really help us become the galactic beings and become whole with all aspects of ourself.
So, in the final ascension workshop, you're going to be able to observe reality in a new way. And you're going to expand your consciousness each week. And you're going to move more fully into the fifth dimension every single week. In the first week will be an introduction, explaining a little more about sacred geometry and how we incarnate from planets in a solar system from the outer planets towards the inner planets to our sun, and then out into another level of consciousness, another octave of experience. We talk about the current cycles and alignments and the shifting consciousness as an overview, and it includes a meditation. The second lecture is about the mind and the brain as that radio station, the sender and the receiver that can dial in very specific numbers to reach specific consciousness. And talks about how if you've been frustrated about meditating in the past, a really good thing to know is if you get higher in elevation, I like to say at least above 1,500 feet in elevation, you have a much better chance of going into what they call empty mind meditation, because below that level, you are being affected by all the consciousness and thoughts of the people around you. And especially if you live in a big city, those thoughts are bombarding you, which makes it very hard to quiet your mind. So rather than being frustrated, go high up in the mountains if that's the kind of meditation you want to practice. And it also talks about living in the zone. You know, you can set your mind to different brainwave levels. When we're awake, we say we're in the beta level of brainwave activity, and we can lower our brainwaves to the alpha level. And this is usually where creative people do their great work. And we can train ourselves to do this. And there's a meditation to help you with that. You can really live in that level of vibration. And then there's an identity lecture where you release all your labels and you really let go of attachment to a greater degree. And you move into really embracing cosmic reality as a possibility. And there's a great meditation on that too. The next is the emotions and how they move you off balance. We talked a little bit about that this time. And I always like to bring up that word sin. You know, words change meaning over time. And the original meaning of the word sin was an archer's term. It meant that you were off the bullseye, you were off the mark. So if you sinned, you were off balance. Now that makes sense. That's an idea that we can understand. How it came to kind of mean that you did something wrong, which is really not the meaning of it at all, was so misleading and hurt a lot of people in the long run. So it's nice to know that if we are off balance, we can always move back into balance. We have the power to that. And there's a lot about that in this particular lecture. Next, we go into the astral plane where the psychic senses are, and we move from the psychic senses into the higher self because the psychic senses are wonderful, but they're not the end of our abilities. We are now opening up into the higher self and our higher visions where we really are becoming clairaudient, clairsentient, clairvoyant, and so forth. So those are beginning to open up to us. And it's about transforming chaos to order and how our bodies were designed to do that. And it explains that in a lot of detail. The next one is about ideas and releasing our attachment to personality, judgment, and suffering. And really, most of the time, we have been evolving through the process of suffering. But I reached up to Spirit and said, why do we have to suffer in order to evolve? And Spirit said to me, because that's the way it's always been done. So I said, let me be the first one to evolve without suffering. And we have the ability to do that now. I think what happens is we tend to get lazy when we're comfortable. And this is why suffering was kind of used to move us out of our comfort zone when we stopped doing our meditating and we stopped doing our breathing exercises because we thought, oh my God, I'm so happy right now. I don't want to move out of this place. But we needed to continue to move on our journey. So if we can consciously remember to challenge ourselves and keep growing and learning and expanding without suffering, we can do it without suffering. So that is my goal and my gift to humanity. I would like that to set into the Akashic record. And the more of us that do it, the more of us will set that pattern and eliminate the idea that suffering is the only way to evolve. And then we go into the belief system about what's possible, releasing what's no longer serving you, letting go of the fear of death, and then into attachment and personal desire, and really beginning to understand how God's will is to override our own personal desire and how to feel the difference between that and changing our form, that it's okay to become a light body. We don't have to hold on to this physical form. We want to transform. Then into ambition and releasing personal ambition and understanding when it becomes obsession. Sometimes we become obsessed and we feel it at certain parts of your body. Sometimes in your stomach, you get that feeling like, I have to do this. You feel driven. And it's just a little bit different than divine guidance. And attuning yourself so you can really feel the difference between those two vibrations. And then releasing the ego that manipulates you and moving past the ego and then into balance and emptiness, into the astral plane where longing ceases. You literally cease longing and you begin to form mastery. And in the final lection, it's really about being God in motion, being so clear that you are God, that you are anchored in the fifth dimension and you are being. You know, in that book, Power versus Force, they talked about if you vibrate at the level of love or the level of peace, you can actually change up to 75,000 people just by sitting still in those vibrations, not even going out into creation, not even going out into reality. And that is kind of the step that we are all aspiring to, that level of peaceful beingness where we become the inspiration for transformation of as many people as possible. So that's the final transformation workshop.
Yes. All right. That's beautiful. So that's option two. And it really is beautiful to really cultivate that. Each of those are lessons, lectures, and they come with the meditations along with that too. So we can really experience on that very deep level that integration. That's awesome. All right. So that's the final ascension workshop and the transformation package. I don't know if we talked about each and every one of those, but those are
Okay.
7 programs that are really great to be used on its own or with this.
Absolutely. So, this is for those that feel drawn to prepare their body for that final ascension workshop. The first item is a book, it's a PDF digital download of my book, Integration Heal Past Trauma and Prevent Future Trauma, where you release past trauma, integrate the lessons, and learn the lessons in the moment they are happening. You start healing your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies. And by learning the lessons in the moment, you don't store that trauma in your body and you therefore don't create disease in your body because you learn the lessons as you go through life. The second item is an audio program called Open Your Mind to the Coming Wave. And as we know, what we're experiencing now is this amazing wave, and that wave is in unstable form. It's not like the particle that is still and stable and in one point. It's constantly moving. So we're feeling a little off balance. We're like, we can't get our footing. And this helps us go through a series of 5 initiations, letting go of separation, interdimensional travel, and becoming a part of this ocean of consciousness, not resisting it, but merging with all consciousness in the meditation. Taking us to new heights is the third lecture, and it's about letting go of all preconceptions of the physical world and allowing yourself to explore the possibilities of working with these new energies and how everything around us is dissolving and projecting all our positive outcomes into consciousness, giving and receiving in equal measure, and transforming competition into assistance. And the meditation helps you to release your physical and move into your light body more fully. The talking with angels um, item, which is the fourth item, is a lecture about going to specific dimensions to deal with specific angels in our 4 lower bodies. And then beyond that, where when you go into those 4 lower levels, you have to ask for permission. And we've always heard ask and the door will be opened. And that's true on the 4 lower levels: physical, astral, mental, and spiritual planes. But as we go beyond those planes, there is a different consciousness that comes in, and we actually go into the vibration of knowing it is already done. So when we get into those higher gifts of our fifth dimensional being, we're no longer asking for something, we're actually knowing it's already complete. And as we know it's already complete, it is complete. And so this particular tape gives you a meditation to go into the four lower bodies, contact a specific angel for perhaps the purpose of healing or other purposes, and then entering into these higher bodies and activating the pineal pituitary gland in the nervous system, again, to elevate you up to the highest possibility. Item number 5 is the pineal gland activation. That's just meditation. It takes you through a process that opens up the pineal completely. It's really, it's such a beautiful meditation. It's 24 minutes and 26 seconds long. And you will find so much changed in your life by doing this one meditation. Because once the pineal gland is completely open, all of this is possible. The next item is the truth about aging, and that's to let go of this concept that we have a finite amount of time here. We really are in charge of our bodies. They were designed to regenerate and heal themselves. That's what these bodies were designed for. We have the ability to choose when we transition. And now, instead of physically dying, we have another option to transform into our light body in full consciousness and move into that other level of acceptance of another body that's not really in physical form. And the final item, number 7, is waking to cosmic consciousness, where we are becoming one with all that is throughout all consciousness, having that experience, becoming aware of it, going through the portal into these other dimensions, becoming a species, a new species, together, evolving consciously and willfully into this new species, and putting that into the collective idea as a goal to aspire to and experience together to help each other to do that. And all time is speeding up around us. And when chaos surrounds us, we become the eye of the hurricane, that still point. You know, if you stand in the eye of a hurricane, you're in a completely set of stillness. The winds are not moving at all. You're in a point of stillness. And so, as we observe all the chaos that's going around in the world, this tape will help you come to that still point in yourself so that the meditation will bring these energies to you as a tool so that this chaos will not affect you in any way, and you can stand in your power in full balance in the still point of your own being. So that's the transformation package. And if you feel called to experience this by one or both of them, they work together beautifully. And it is my gift and privilege to share these with you.
We just want to thank you for that comprehensive, full package. Really a wonderful way for those who really want to get into the higher gifts and to make connections with aspects of ourselves and the other beings who are here to assist us, bringing in new earth. Really quite beautiful. So I just want to mention that that is available in an immediate download. So folks can begin working with that right straight away. Again, it's beautiful to prepare the body first with those 7 courses, and then the 12 sessions and 12 lessons meditations for the final ascension. Really quite wonderful. And again, as we become a new species, we are here to help everyone. And a program like this really assists us to go deep in that way so that we can bring in these qualities that allow us to create with the new energies, but then yet help others as well. So that is available. Scroll down on this webpage and you'll see Shirley Rose's special offer. Again, it's an immediate download, and we are really excited for you to tap into your knowingness and really work with your inner wisdom in this way as you are ready. Shirley Rose is a beautiful teacher on that journey for you. And we again thank you, Shirley Rose, for offering this for us and for sharing the beautiful information today. You mentioned earlier that the pineal gland is really a portal, and that as we work with the meditation in the transformation package, that it's really one of the most important things that we can do, because there's something about that open pineal gland that works hand in hand with trust and inner knowingness.
The pineal gland is actually the wormhole itself. It's actually the portal. And as we're traveling through that portal in our imagination, in our meditations, we're traveling through one of the three different spheres inside the pineal gland. You have, as they say, the body, the spirit, and the light body inside the pineal gland, and you're actually going, you might call it in psychological terms, the subconscious, the superconscious. You're going into those higher levels of yourself, those doorways of your mind, and opening that portal for transportation. So that is really where the transportation to other dimensions happens, in our pineal gland.
All right, thank you for sharing and clarifying that. Really quite beautiful, this inner journey to the quantum realm. It is there for all of us and our connection here in Solutions as we bring forth New Earth. Shirley, thank you so much for this workshop today, this Mastery Empowerment course. Is there anything you'd like to share as we wrap up?
I just want to say how thankful I am to you, Loren, and your work in the world. I'm thankful to all the light workers out there who are coming to these programs, who are searching out answers, who are elevating their bodies, their souls, their spirits to move forward for all of humanity, for all the people who have had the courage to incarnate on earth at this time. And we know it has not been an easy mission. So I salute each and every one of you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. We salute you too back, Shirley Rose. And again, we embrace all of you light bringers and light showers and light workers, way showers who are on this path. And I know sometimes as well it could get lonely, but that's why when we come together in spaces like this, we realize that we got this and all truly is well. Yes. Thank you, Shirley Rose.
Thank you,
Namaste.
Loren.